microphone. My microphone is not on the table where it's supposed to be. I'm scared, guys. I'm streaming alone at night. Oh, it's so scary. Kawaii. Why is kawaii similar to kawaii? Huh? It's kind of... Alright, let's see if I can bring the chat so I can see what people are telling me. I got a brony in the chat. Ugh, now I'm even more afraid. Let me show skin. I got my Pikachu shirt. Pikachu. I couldn't find the Sonny Chew. There was no Sonny Chew available. Well, it depends, Rosal. It depends what we're going to do. I don't know. Like every stream to me is a new journey. I might do something that I would say, oh, I'm not leaving this up. Let me see the Matt Damon thing because it's even more hilarious when you realize that he is a little slur. Is getting him into trouble, right? Because this is what I think happened. He wanted to virtue signal, right? Like you can't blame a man for virtue signaling. Like how can you have virtue if you don't tell others how virtuous you are? You know, like imagine just, I don't know, giving money to the homeless, right? Like who the fuck cares about that? No, like you need to show the virtue. It's like you know, like most normal people who got the Fauci ouchie, they take the Fauci ouchie and that's it, right? Like that is it. Well, no, hold on. Like we need to differentiate between the vaccine and the Fauci ouchie, right? So the most normal people, they get the vaccine and that's it. But then you have the people that get the Fauci ouchie, and legend has it that it doesn't work unless you also take a selfie and you put it on social media, right? So like how can you be virtuous and save society, save the world, if you don't let other people know? Like if you don't inform other people of just how perfect of a human being you are, who's going to do that for you? Like people are selfish nowadays. No one is propping anyone else up. Like you need to be the one propping yourself up. If you don't prop yourself up, who will? And Matt Damon, you know, he tried doing this. Like he tried saying a wholesome story about how uneducated and bigoted he was, but his daughter saved him. Right now, apparently, he didn't know it was a gay slur. Right, so apparently he must have said it into the comfort of his own bedroom, like in the privacy of his own house. He has said the slur, and no one heard it. But now that he admitted, oh, he might get canceled. Why might he get canceled? Because he said it. You can't say it, even in your own home, even in the privacy of your own bedroom. You cannot say it. And if you say it, then people will try to make sure that you are on the streets, homeless, begging for food, no one to give it to you because you are unworthy. So actor Matt Damon insisted that he has never used a gay slur in his personal life after being criticized for saying he'd only recently retired the word. I mean, look, he got himself into a pickle. It's like he virtue signaled, and now people are like, oh, wait a second. Did you say the word, Matt Damon? Did you utter the phrase? Did you open the Necronomicon and read the word that does damage? Then we will do damage to you, Matt Damon. We will do damage to you because words are not safe from consequences, and we, the righteous people, are the consequence, Matt Damon. My God, like, can this become more ridiculous than it already is? Like, at what point? You know, like, there needs to be a point, I believe, when sanity is regained, right? Like when people start acting like normal human beings, and they're like, all right, well, you know, like, this is a little bit exaggerating. Like, this is a little bit too far. You know, like, did we really fix everything that's wrong with society in order to be concerned about trivial shit like this? I mean, you know, like there's still homeless people out there. There's still poverty. There's still more work to be done in those areas. Why can't there be like more work to be done in order to help the homeless? Did you notice that there is never more work to be done when it comes to the homeless? There's always more work to be done when it comes to censoring. Right? Like censorship, like utopia and bliss is just one more censorship away. Thank you, Rustav Vicious. Like, Rustav, do you not have sleep Because I'm streaming at 2 a.m. and I didn't expect so many people to come here. This is false advertisement. Where's the kittens? The kittens are in the other room, man. I'm not drunk, by the way. Like, it's so weird. Like, when I'm not drunk and I tell people I'm not drunk, people are like, V, you're drunk. And then when I make a stream and I'm like, okay, I'm totally wasted now. Like, this is a stream where I'm drunk and I talk to people. V, you're not drunk. You're sober. Like, what the fuck is wrong with people? It's the same thing. Like, man, like it happened to me when I'm lying. Like, sometimes I lie and people will believe the lie, but other times I'm telling the truth and people will think I'm lying. It's so bizarre. When I'm getting married, I was asked by Matthew Hammond. Matthew, I'm getting married on the 28th this month. So this month, on the 28th, I will be in front of the priest. The new Marilyn Monroe biopic is getting controversy on Twitter because it has a rape scene and a scene where someone eats her out while she has... I don't even know, like, what, Preed? While she has... and Netflix wants it heavily edited as a result. I mean, this is literally the American cultural revolution, I would say. It is so bizarre. Like, okay, so that scene existed. Like, people right now can go look it up. And they freaking out about it, right? Because rape jokes normalize rape, is what they say, right? But doesn't censorship normalize fascism? Like, this is what everyone should bring up. Every single time, you know, you're on a forum and you're talking about this, you know, it's like, hey, did you know that this movie got censored? Did you know that that got censored? You're supposed to not be able to say it without mentioning rape jokes. Like, censorship should be tied to rape jokes in every single conversation. Because the logic is the same, right? Like, if jokes normalize the thing, then isn't the thing normalizing fascism, right? Is it, like, if jokes normalize, you know, racism or sexism, or isn't censorship normalizing dictatorship? Censorship doesn't normally happen in a free democratic society. Hi V, I don't have money to burn, but no Twitter or twat you this. Watch the Cori Bush interview today about how she needed to spend $70,000 for personal security to protect her from racist cops. Why would I want to get myself upset? Why would I want to, like, get out of my zen? I had to go to the kittens right now to touch them and charge my battery. Why would I get upset by watching something so dumb? Yeah. You know, I think, like, left-leaning people, progressive people like Cori Bush, you know, they want you to be like them. They want you to afford to have 70 grand in order to afford for private security. Isn't it funny that literally what I've been saying since day one is turning true? It's like, the idea of defunding the cops is helping the rich. Like, it's a rich ideology, because now the rich are the only ones that can afford protection, right? It's kind of difficult to fight against the rich, to fight against the 1% when you're worried that someone might break into your house. It's very difficult, isn't it? But like, if you're a rich person, you don't give a shit because you get security. $70,000. Can you imagine? 70 grand. Like, there are people who don't own 70 grand even if they sell their house. It's just like, oh. Betting already made me vomit today. Oh yeah, I saw the video. I told you guys that there's a lot of lore, a lot of esoteric knowledge that exists surrounding Mr. Chris or Mrs. Chris. Well, I don't even know. Like, apparently, like, they transitioned, but I couldn't even find, like, the new pronouns and whatnot. We're going to talk about Chris Chan in a bit, but here's the interesting thing. Like, that word is dangerous. I mean, only an American can say, like, words. You know, words are like tools, all right? It really depends. So, for example, a hammer. A hammer is a tool that can be dangerous, but it depends how you use it. So, for example, if you use a hammer in order to hit a nail, you're using a hammer properly. If you're throwing the hammer at someone else, it's dangerous, right? So it depends. And I gave the example with the word idiot. Right? So the word idiot, if you say, that was an idiotic thing to do, or I heard the most idiot joke today, right? Like, no one gets upset if you use it that way. But if you say, you point to a person that's actually having a mental handicap and you say, wow, look at the idiot. That is not okay. No, like people will find that gross. Even the word fuck. Like the word fuck, back when I learned English, which was like, what, 20 years ago, it was heavily censored. Like I remember the movie Robocop. Like that got censored on TV because it used too many curse words. So they censored RoboCop for TV, right? Like they removed the word, the all the curse words from it. But okay, so let's take a curse word, right? Like normally you'd think the word fuck is offensive all the time. But what if we talk about the, like I want to say the etymology of the word fuck, an encompassing thesis, how the word came to be and whatnot. Is that, something that you can't talk at the dinner table, right? Like, what is your treatise on? Like, my treatise is on the etymology of the word. Or you want to say in the news, like, this guy was slapped by his mother for saying the word fuck. How is that? Like, you can't present the news unless you say the word, right? But what Americans do, and this is again like probably only an American thing because other languages don't ban words. Like you can ban a concept, you can ban an idea, you can, but like to legitimately just ban a word is just so American. And what they do is like they will say the F word, which is so bizarre because like you're thinking it when you're saying it, right? Like because you need to say, like for example in the news, like in this situation, right? Like he says the F slur, right? You can't write this article, you can't write this news without actually talking about the slur so that people know what he said. And everyone knows what he said. Everyone knows about the gamer word, that Matt Damon is a great gamer now. Everyone knows about it, but people can't say it because, well, first of all, I can't say it because there's consequences. Like, I don't give a shit if I were to be out at a bar and I would be talking about this, I would tell you what Matt Damon said. Because you can't communicate without saying it, and I hate this childish thing where you have to say like the F word. It's such a childish way. Honestly, it's to me it's just bizarre. And apparently, like there's no difference between saying it and going in front of a gay person and saying it. Like apparently there's no distinction. Like reading the news on the BBC or telling it in front of a gay man is literally the same. The word is dangerous. Like the word causes harm. And we all know it doesn't cause harm, right? Because as I mentioned before, in a battlefield scenario where the US is fighting against the Talibans, if the Talibans would have like massive speakers and they were to say this word at the max, no one would give a shit, right? Because it's not de facto dangerous. Objectively, it's not dangerous. It's only dangerous because we pretend that's like the Voldemort of all words. Have you heard about the new virus variant? It targets a certain minority group due to its behavior. Scientists have named it the virus, the Chad virus. Don't joke like that, because you never know how sensitive YouTube's AI is, right? Like you can get banned for like the AI doesn't differentiate between jokes and you actually saying the thing. Hi V. All right. What language do you think in V? That's a great question. Usually I think in Romanian. Sometimes I think in English. Right? Because I used to wonder, like, what do people who speak two languages thinking when you have like before I learned English. So it depends. I mean, if I'm thinking like, for example, if I'm thinking of a movie or a video game that's in English, then I'll think about it in English. Like when I'm thinking about what video I'll be making tomorrow, I'm thinking in English. But if I'm thinking about what should I buy for next week, like do I need some milk and eggs? Do I need some? I'm thinking in Romanian. And it's kind of interesting because you get like these people, and I see it in India as well, especially in Bollywood. And I think even in Japan you get this, where they're speaking English mixed with Romanian, or English mixed with Indian, or English mixed with Japan. Like they will say a sentence, and half of the words are in English and the other half is in Romanian. It's so bizarre. And I know people who do it in real life. I guess like it's easier for them to express themselves because they can just find the words right away, and they, especially since you will know that some languages can translate certain concepts a lot better than other languages can. Like for example, there are certain words in English that are very difficult to translate into Romanian, and vice versa. Like certain concepts that or sayings. And I understand that there are even languages that don't even have the concept of the word zero. Like it just doesn't exist in that language. So you have to like use difficult ways in order to like kind of get people to know what you're talking about. I'm also surprised that it isn't controversial the fact they put Cuban actress Annie de Armas from 2049 and the new Bond movie in whiteface to play Madeline. I think it's not controversial because it was back then, but it's also weird. Like sometimes, certain things become controversial for no reason. Like for example, Dr. Seuss's book, and other times like things that should be controversial, no one gives a shit. Like South Park, you don't really know like what's going to cause the controversy. Hi V, are you a cat daddy? I've been a cat daddy for 2 weeks now. Let me just hold on. I forgot to close Skype. Here we go. Glow in the Dark says, have you heard about... Oh, I read this one. This is why I love Portuguese, Spanish, and English. Whatever language fits the context I use. Yeah, like I've seen a lot of people do this. It's also considered kind of uncultural in a way. Like it's not really cool if you do it. It's usually like edgy teenagers that feel the need to perform this activity of mixing the language. Anyway, right. So he says that he doesn't use slurs of any kind because now he got into hot water because of his virtue signaling, right? Like he wanted to say, oh well, my daughter, like I was using the gay slur, but then my daughter told me not to use it. So he says the word that he used was commonly used when I was a kid with a different application. I made a joke months ago and got a treatise from my daughter. Come on, that's a joke. I say it in the movie, stuck on you. And apparently, like, his daughter got really upset. She got off from the table and then came up with the treatise. And this educated Matt Damon, enlightened him in order to stop using the word. I just... Dude, I don't believe it. I don't fucking believe it. Like, even if it happened, why would you tell the press about it? Like, why would you tell, like, all these things? This is not something wholesome. This is not something inspiring. You know, why don't you tell us a story about how you actually helped a homeless person for once? Why don't you tell us a story about how you managed to improve someone else's life? This is just... fuck me. So during a recent interview, I recall the discussion I had with my daughter when I attempted to contextualize for her the progress that has been made. Yeah, what fucking progress that has been made? Like, this is something that really annoys me about the United States. It's like, oh, there was progress. How? Well, we changed the way people think. It's like, okay, but de facto, how many people live a better life today than they were living it last year? Like, whose life did you improve? How many people have you uplifted from poverty? That would be a progress, right? Like, what new inventions did you bring to the world? What the fuck are you talking about progress? Like in the United States, if you regress, if you talk about regression, there was a time in the American history. All right, let me hold on. No. I'll show you something that that will definitely strengthen my point. Alright? So, I'm pretty sure everyone knows the show, right? Married with Children. And apparently, like, this is a very bigoted show, but, you know, like, even I in Romania grew up with it, because we got this period after communism where we would take a lot of American movies, and we would translate them. But the problem is, like, this really wasn't translating into American culture. And I'll tell you why it didn't translate. Because this is something that always baffled me to no end, right? My God, like the Kelly, the daughter was... Alright, so here's what I never understood as a Romanian. Why is Al complaining that he doesn't have money if he manages to live in a household where he is the only one that has a job and he lives in this luxurious mansion? Like, he's not living in a small tenant. He's not living in a pod, right? They're complaining that they're hungry. Okay, I get that. But, like, he's got a car. He's got a dog. He's got, like, a full family. And he's got, like, a house with another room. And he's got, like, 2 kids. So, like, this is something that I really didn't understand why exactly was something in the United States, right? Like how can poor people in the US, and by the way, like again, like in Romania, a shoe salesman would not be able to afford any of this, right? Now, apparently this is a TV show, right? So it's comedy, it's fictional. But when I actually looked into it, like when I grew up and I looked into it, it was possible in the United States with one wage to actually have a family this large. Now you wouldn't live a life of luxury. You wouldn't. It's exactly like the Al Bandi were behaving. It's like they were always desperate for money. They were always hungry and blah blah blah. But it was possible to live as a large family. Maybe not in this luxurious house, okay, but with one income you could sustain a large family. And apparently we progressed since then. Like the Americans managed to progress, progressive, very progressive, with high crime rates, with low economical downturn, with all the problems of today, where even two people having income in a household isn't enough. And by the way, like this show wasn't like, because I looked on various forums, like no one is pointing out what Romanians noticed. It's like how is a person that's a shoe salesman able to have such a large house? Like no one brings it up. Okay, but everyone brings up the sexism, and I'm thinking like, what the fuck is sexism in this? You as a woman, let's say I'm Peggy, right? You have the opportunity not to work, like literally just not work and stay home all day. How the fuck is that oppressive? Like, can I have fun? Like imagine if I, as a guy, right, you would find a woman that looks like this, right, when you're a teenager. So you hook up with a woman that looks like this, and she tells you that all you need to do is to stay home all the day and do the chores. Wow, such oppression, such wow. Can you imagine how oppressed you must be? Oh my god, it's like, please tell me more about how oppressive it is to stay home, do the chores, and have the wife who coming at home giving you pocket money. Oh my god, like I just, yeah, I definitely understand why that would be an issue. Message deleted by the Google moderator team. What did you say? Um, did you ever buy any AMC? AMC. What is AMC? Dr. Seuss was a progressive that opposed the American First mindset. Glad they canceled him. I'm not glad they canceled anyone. Like normally, every single canceling, every single censorship just normalizes more canceling and more censorship. The idea that other people need to think for you is just bizarre. Speaking of movies, what are some good Romanian ones? So there's this movie Philanthropica, which is really great. The movie is about a teacher, a Romanian teacher, who is having a very difficult time because he's living with his parents, not by choice, but because he literally can't move out. He doesn't have the money to live in his own place. And like the children that he is teaching to are more rich than he is, right? Because he's just a high school teacher. He doesn't make a lot of money. And he writes this book that no one wants to buy. Like he's definitely trying. Like he's hardworking. He wants to do more, but he just can't because the system doesn't allow him to. And eventually, like he falls in love with this high school chick. Well, she's not a high school chick. She's actually like the alleged sister of one of his schoolmates. So she's over 18, but yeah, like she's really good looking. He falls in love with her, starts becoming a simp, tries to make more money, and eventually goes to this NGO that teaches people how to beg properly, and they teach him that just raising your hand is enough. Like you need to have a compassionate story. It's really interesting. Like it's very cynical, a very down to earth take on society. I would definitely recommend it. Why should people censor the people that advocate for censorship? I don't think like Dr. Seuss should be censored. Like A, he's not alive. B, I don't even know if Dr. Seuss advocated for censorship or not. right? Like, and even if he did, like, he's not famous for it. Like when people think about Dr. Seuss, they're not thinking, oh, you know what, censorship. And C, again, like the guy is dead, right? Like censoring him will not change anyone's mind. This is just a bizarre thing right now. What on earth is Jonah doing that he keeps getting deleted by the Google moderating team? I never seen that in my channel, like someone getting deleted for Google's moderating. It's so annoying. Like I should be able to see what he says. What if I want to ban him for what he is? Huh? Anyway, yeah, exactly, Veraldo. Um, anyway, another good Romanian movies are Memories from the Golden Era. Now, Tales from the Golden Age, actually, my bad. Yeah, so the Tales from the Golden Age are a couple of stories that are very funny in nature, and they're from a communist time. Like, for example, one of the stories is that during socialism in Romania, you weren't allowed to um, cut. You weren't allowed to sacrifice your own animals, right? So if you are a peasant, for example, and you raised a pig, you weren't allowed to eat your own pig, right? Like all the pigs belonged in the co-ops, in the co-op farms. You weren't allowed to own one, and even if you did own one, like you weren't allowed to eat it. You had to take it to the state and pretty much like sell it to the butcher, and the butcher would give you some money in exchange, but you weren't allowed to eat the pork. Now, there were peasants who broke the rules, right? Obviously, because it was very difficult to enforce this law to make sure that no one is eating their own pork. And this little fiction, I guess this little story, happens to be where a couple of people living in the city have contacts in the rural place, and they do a service for the people in the rural area, and in exchange, they promise to give them a pig. And this was like something really huge. Again, like a lot of people didn't eat meat because it was rationed. And the ration was like 1 kilogram of chicken a month, and 1 kilogram of pork, or half a kilogram of pork a month, and half a kilogram of chicken a month. So everything was rationed, right? And people would get by, like people would find out the way in order to get some pork, or like under the table. And the funny part in this story is that the rural guys like bring the pig alive to the city, to the city folk, and they like really don't know what to do with it, because it's like it's an apartment, it's a tenant building, and no one is supposed to know that they have a pig, because if they know, then they would get in trouble with the secret police. So they have to think about how they're going to kill the animal. Right now, they can't use a knife because the pig will squeal. And what they do is that they gas the pork. They lock down the kitchen. They tape the doors, and they form like this little gas chamber, and they let the stove open during the night. And when they go back in during the day, the pig is dead, right? So now they're like talking about cutting him open. They open the windows, they ventilate, and what you need to do is, like, when the pig is dead, you're supposed to use like a flame in order to burn the outer skin, right? To make sure that the hair gets burned and whatnot. So when they bring the torch next to the pork, which is covered in gas because he inhaled it, the pork explodes. And it creates like it shakes the entire building, and you get like these little stories, like these nugget stories, which honestly, like, they're so stupid they might even be true. But yeah, this is an example of a Romanian movie that I would recommend to people, a comedy. With all these moderators, just like the incident from the stream that I came from, um, the closed captioning on this live stream is excellent. Yeah, like this is how the AI works, right? Because in the beginning, like, people on YouTube, they were very worried about titles and tags, because that's how the AI would know if your video is problematic. But then, like, people realized that the captions in the video are excellent, and the Google moderators would probably just look at the captions and see what you said in the video. The income supporting a family hasn't been a thing in America for most since the 60s and the 70s. All the jobs started getting shipped overseas. Yeah, it's pretty much what I'm saying, right? Like, how is it progressive? Like, in what way have you progressed? By advocating for censorship, you immediately advocate for your own censorship. You know, like there is this like strategic censorship that I agree with. It's like if you have like a person that's very, very outspoken of censorship, right? So an actor, a journalist, like a politician, and they're incredibly pro censorship. If that person gets censored, I think it's a good thing. Yeah, because it's the only way they will change their mind. Like they're not going to change their mind out of principle. There's nothing you can show or do for them to change their mind. So when they get censored, it's pretty much like an arsonist, you know, like being taken, you know, like locking up an arsonist. Like you have someone that likes to set fires to buildings, and one day it's like the police catch him and take him out into to prison. That is pretty much like how I see it. It's like when the people who advocate for censorship get censored. I think that is the only time where censorship can actually be a good thing. If the person has a history of championing and saying censorship works and censorship is great, yeah, like these are the people that I don't mind if they actually get censored. Cadweed have another one. I went to this holiday to have a detox from my addiction, and I'm spending the money so I can tell myself I can't afford Vice. Wow, Cadweed, that is so great. And now your vice is to watch my live stream. That is excellent. What can I say? Well, like stealing from a thief. The way I would explain it, like imagine this. All right, imagine that there is a guy with a van, and he goes around town every night and steals from people's homes. Now, let's say this guy is connected with the mafia, and no one wants to fuck with him because they're afraid of the Don. So the cops won't do anything about him. The people they don't rise up against him because they're afraid. But like everyone doesn't like it, you know. Like everyone talks in the town square, and everyone is upset and outraged. It's like, oh my god, like you know, stealing is wrong, and how bad stealing is. But all that people do is that they talk, right? And they're against stealing, and they don't like. And one day, the Don himself steals the van, right? Like the mafia that was backing this guy up are stealing his car. And now the guy doesn't have a van to steal things anymore. And he goes into the market and it's like, why are you guys laughing? Why are you guys happy? I thought you were against stealing. Aren't you hypocrites? Look, someone stole from me. Why aren't you guys helping out? Why aren't you guys doing anything? Right? This is literally how I view the situation. I don't think that the people would be hypocrites for not trying to help the guy get his van back after he stole so much. Thank you, Atiwari. People are making more today than any other time in American history. People talk about how the 50s were amazing, but does anyone want to live the same living standard? You know, Abdi, the thing with living standards is that if you don't know that certain things exist, then you really don't miss them. Like, for example, right? I played video games when I was a kid, and there were like no multiplayer whatsoever. Massive loading times, shitty graphics. The games had barely any story. Do you think back then I was missing the fact that I could just whoop out my phone and watch movies on my phone, or that I would have like Wi-Fi connection without any cable attached, or that I would be able to play video games with no loading times and all this stuff? Like, if you don't know that certain technological advancements or living standards exist, you don't miss them. You know, I mean, when I grew up, I didn't have a computer, and I grew up with my grandmother for the first 7 years of my life. Uh, I didn't miss having a computer. I didn't miss any of those things because I didn't even know they existed. I suppose, like, with the knowledge that I have now, if I were to go back in time, maybe, you know, I wouldn't like living in the 70s. But I'll tell you what, you know, even then you'd probably adjust because human beings adjust very well. Like, for example, a person that's rich doesn't wake up every morning and go like, "Oh, I'm so rich. Ah, look at all the stuff that I have." People get adjusted very easily with the things that they have. Um, and I think like even if you were to go back in time in the 70s, you would probably get adjusted with the living standards from then quite rapidly. I have a medical question since you're a doctor. Been feeling pressures in my head and on my brain. They don't hurt really, but I've noticed them for about a year. And I don't know if I should worry about them or not. So if it's been going on for a year, you should probably go and get a checkup. Just to be sure. If they don't hurt and you just feel like a pressure, probably nothing, but you should still go and do some imagery just to see if you're fine. Um, did grandma make pies? Huh? Even conservatives seem to accept everything. Well, like I'm really curious if conservatives call themselves conservatives or is the progressives that call the conservatives conservatives, right? Because like you notice how important language is, and it's usually like people get named by their opponents. Like for example, why is the donkey the mascot of the Democrats? And the reason is because someone called a Democrat a jackass, and he actually owned that, and he used that as the mascot. So a lot of the branding sometimes doesn't happen as self-branding, like people don't come up with it, but it's because other people gave them the label. Yeah, it's probably cynicism, but again, like I don't know what his blood works are. I don't know the way he feels the pressure. So, which is why it's the best thing to go and get a checkup. People complaining want the same standards as now just by doing the same non-productive factory work. You can do the same job, but you won't get the modern living standard. No, I don't think that's the case. Um, I know people today who work like 11 or 12 hours a day laying bricks. And what people are pointing out, if you did that in the past, in the 60s or the 70s, you would have, well, not necessarily more money, but more purchasing power than you do today. And you'd be able to, planning one, probably be able to take care of a family much better than you can today. Like here's another thing about taking care of family. Well, actually, the family thing. I think that apps completely ruin dating. And what I mean by this is that in the past, finding a significant other, like finding a girlfriend, was very difficult because you had to find her from your inner social circle, and usually like at parties that wouldn't happen all days. Like it usually happened rarely. And once you had a girlfriend, you wouldn't take her for granted. Like you'd actually love her and care about her because you knew that if things don't go well, it's going to be very difficult to find another girlfriend. Nowadays, like I know a lot of people who like get in a relationship, and the moment they get bored of a relationship or something goes wrong, they immediately break up because they know there's always going to be like another Tinder, and they can swipe left, left, left until they find something they like. Um, and on top of that, like the women are compete like the men you're competing with, man, like imagine being a teenager and you're still in high school, right? And let's say you're 18 years old and you want to date. You're competing with other guys that have cars, that have their own place, that have their shit together. Maybe they, go to a prestigious university or something. And the women, like, I don't blame them. I mean, imagine the same, imagine you being the guy, and every girl you go on Tinder and you swipe right, you would get a match. Like you're not going to settle for just the beautiful girl. You're going to settle for the beautiful girl that also has a car and it's got an apartment and she already has her shit together and is probably at a good university, right? Because the supply is overwhelming. So if the supply is overwhelming, then obviously you can pick whatever you want, and you're going to pick what you consider to be the best. And that's what Tinder does. Like before Tinder, you didn't have the opportunity to just see all the girls in a large area. So if you live in a city, you can have like potentially thousands of girls to choose from, and the girls have potentially thousands of guys to choose from. Yeah, it is true about dating. It's kind of sad, right? Because I guess like it's the commodification of dating, which is going to become more and more difficult in the future. Um, we are talking about back in the 50s and the 60s where parts of the American South didn't have indoor plumbing. Man, I lived without indoor plumbing. Do you know what happened? I didn't miss indoor plumbing because I didn't even knew about it. Like when I was with my grandmother, we had a pivy. So yeah, I mean now I do. Like I would miss indoor plumbing now. But if you don't know about how good it is, you're just going to be fine without it. My girlfriend can make definitely very delicious pies. Going to some dude's rooftop condo is a lot more appealing than going to some dude's dorm with his roommate. Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Like, it's not only that. Like, you're going to a guy's rooftop condo. Like, maybe like the standards wouldn't be that high, but like if you're a woman and you can choose to go out with a guy that's in high school living with his mom because he doesn't have the money to move out, not because he wouldn't want to move out. So you have like the choice between that and going out with a guy that already owns an apartment. I mean, it's like duh. I met my first boyfriend at work, and he got the dating app itch. Yeah, I mean, it's not only that. Like, the fact that you met your boyfriend at work is very rare. Like from what I understand, during the time of my parents, most of them would meet. Like most people would find their significant others at work. But ever since like all of the sexual harassment lawsuits and all of the Me Too accusations, blah blah blah, like people are really really afraid to hook up at work because you don't know. I mean, like what is allowed and what isn't. You can go up to someone and you can get a sexual harassment HR meeting, and like a lot of people who spend a lot of time building up a career don't want to risk that. I mean, maybe like let's assume that you're at the corporation and you're the manager, and you have like this really cool girl that already starts working there, and maybe you even have like sparks flying, and you feel that there is a connection. Like how stupid must you be in order to make the move? How stupid must you be in order to say, hey, you know what, like should we go out after work? Because like she can say, oh my god, well that's sexual harassment, he's abusing his power as a manager. Dating as a guy who's autistic on top of all is a nightmare and so discouraging. The main thing I found is people aren't patient anymore. I don't know if it's that people are patient or not. The main problem is like dating if you're shy. And people who are autistic are definitely shy, and they really don't do well at social interactions. So being shy as a guy is probably the most difficult thing, because women that are shy, that's no problem, right? Like for women, other things are considered unattractive by men. Like a shy girl can even be desirable. Like I know men that are like, yes, I need a shy girl because yeah, she's going to leave me alone. Like it's kind of like a shy girl, I guess, is like a bad boy. Like the type of women who like a bad boy in order to set him straight and domesticate him, right? Like she wants the biker guy in order to turn him into a good husband. Uh, some boys like shy girls because they're like, oh well, once I get under her shell, like once I actually get to meet the real her, is going to be so exciting. So being like a shy guy is very difficult, especially when you have to make the first step and you have to start conversations and finding out things in a world where the woman is already on Tinder and probably knows 100 other guys and wants to know like what do you have that special that the other guys don't. Um, Tefik says I can't start conversations even with my friends. Yeah, I know. Um, it's difficult sometimes to start conversations, and other times like if you try to force starting a conversation, it's really bad. Think about autism. Succubus Narita says, isn't it usually sparkle with narrow focus of interest? Sounds pretty not too bad if you have it mild. Well, it depends what your focus of interest is, Succubus. Like if your interest is, I don't know, Magic the Gathering and card games, it's like you're not going to get a lot of girls interested in that. Shy girls are less likely to smack you around than bad boys do. Yeah, I mean, I suppose, you know, like a bad boy is prone to, but like I wouldn't say that, you know, because it's not just bad boys that are prone to violence. I know cases like when I was at the hospital and when I was at law school, like I would hear it's like, oh my god, like my husband beat me, and then I would see a picture with the husband and it was like a little midget, and I'm like, how the fuck is this little twerp, you know? But it's possible that it happens even if you don't go out for a bad boy. No, like the more likely it is, because I know bad boys like bikers and people that that are hooligans and people that were criminals, and they would never hit a girl. But the thing is about them is that they're less likely to want to be in a relationship, because that's the main problem, right? Like with guys that have a lot of girls and they get like a lot of women they can choose from, they don't really want to settle down. So the women are going to get hurt because experts say, research shows, study claims, men regret passing a one night stand. Like that's something that men regret. If they have the opportunity for a one night stand, they really regret if they don't take it. While women regret having the one night stand. So having casual sex without actually forming a relationship afterwards. I find myself having too much empathy to the point it's crippling. Oh my god! Like I managed to disconnect from empathy when it came to dating so fast it wasn't even funny. Because at one point I had the self-reflection. Well, if no one has empathy for me, why would I have empathy for other people? It's just weird. Right. So it's getting really late here. Usually I would hold the stream a little bit more. But it's already 3 a.m. and I need to make another video on my other channel. Let me see if I have any more questions. Yeah, I'm still curious, like, what was that with the Google moderation team, though? Like, I rarely get to see it. It's weird. It still freaks me out. It's 2:30 a.m. here, and I got a lot of work to do tomorrow, still having those wedding preparations going. So... have empathy for yourself. Yeah. Anyway, right. Thank you guys for watching the stream, and I'll see you tomorrow. Yeah, it's 3 a.m. Succubus. It's like, here's the thing, like, that normal people don't understand about YouTubers. Like, YouTubers have the sleeping schedule out of whack, because you can make your own you can make your own rules. You know, you can make your own time, like when you want to work and when you don't. I actually, like, I'll end with this joke. I went into a taxi today, and the taxi driver was like, oh, I'm so glad that I don't have a boss and I can do whatever I want. Like, being a taxi driver is amazing because I can be my own boss and I can do whatever I want. So no one has to tell me what to do. And then I told him, like, literally after, like, hey, can you please make a right over here? Thank you for